I provided an example in the book of two different individuals, Bill and Lindsay. And in the book, Bill just stays at a company for, I don't remember how long I made it, like 10, 15 years. And he just goes along with the company. He gets the standard raise or uptick every single year. He doesn't ever leave his company, and he just goes along for the next 10 years. Lindsay, on the other hand, she goes after different raises, different promotions. She transfers out of her company, and she has different upticks in her salary. And what you can see over, I think, is a 10-year period where they both start with identical salaries. That compounding effect of the money over time, over that 10-year period, Lindsay earns $1 million more than Bill. And so when you're like, how much money do you want to make? I mean, I don't think it probably would register to a lot of people that if you make strategic moves across your career over a 10-year period, you could earn $1 million more than the person who's sitting next to you. I think that's pretty great. Hi, folks. A quick one before we dive into this week's episode. Our book, The Critical Path Career, How to Advance in Construction Planning and Scheduling, is out now, and you can order it on Amazon. We'll include a link below. This is a great way to show support for the Beyond Deadlines podcast, and Greg and I have worked extremely hard taking everything we know in our 30 years of experience, plus everything we've picked up from shooting this podcast, and we've tried to pack it into an information-dense book that you can use right away. In the book, we have specific strategies on how to get a raise, how to get a promotion, and find a new job. We include 26 of the best interview questions that we have come across, in addition to 34 specific impact ideas that you can go use on your projects today. We want to thank everyone who's shown us support so far and enjoy this week's episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Greg Lawton, and I'm the CEO of an AI schedule management company called Nodes and Links.
My name is Micah, and I'm a scheduling manager for Intel.
Each podcast is designed to give you strategies and tactics that you can implement right away. Today is a rather special episode because Micah has written a book. I have no idea what this book is about. I know the title and little bits of it, but what I'm going to do is pick his brains. I know that it's about making money in scheduling, and it's about how he's made his career moves and the specific moves he's made to make the big bucks. But I don't know more than that. So, with that, Micah, what's this book about?
One thing I noticed that's missing in the construction scheduling space, there's not a ton of information on how you go make a ton of money. How do you make specific career moves to increase your earnings? There's a ton of information on technical Primavera P6. There is a ton of information on how to take Primavera P6 and put it into Power BI. There's loads of that. So I wanted to write something that was very specific to construction planners and schedulers about how you go out and earn more money.
Give us the elevator spiel. What's the secret? How do I go out and make more money? How much money can I make?
There's only 5 ways to go out. I mean, how much money do you want?
Well,
but let's start with, there's really only, there you go. There's only 5 ways to make more money as a construction planner or scheduler. The first one, you ask for a raise. So you're at your company, can I have more money to be paid? The second one, you ask for a promotion. Similar to a raise, but you get a different job, different level, more responsibility, more money. The third way is to go get a new job. So you leave your company, you get paid more money, transferring someplace else. The fourth way is if you had your own consultancy, would be to get more clients or increase your rates. I don't cover this one or the next one in this book because it just would be too long, and I wanted to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. And I feel like if you are a consultancy, that's a little bit of a different lane. And then the last one would be to create your own product, software, or service, which, Greg, you may be familiar with, and sell it that way in the construction market. So those are the 5 ways in which you can make more money.
So you're talking career, company, product. And definitions, products are more infinitely scalable than career. And companies scale labor. Sorry, I'm talking very specific things here. I'm just getting it straight in my mind. For everyone listening, we've talked about this on a previous podcast. There's fundamentally 4 scale mechanisms in business. There's money, people, software, and attention. So consultancy would be scaling people, and software is product. Obviously, there isn't attention here, and there isn't money here. I guess that's promotion, because you can become a project director and scale money. I was intended. Okay, cool. Okay, so you're focusing on the first three. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I provided an example in the book of two different individuals, Bill and Lindsay. And in the book, Bill just stays at a company for, I don't remember how long I made it, like 10, 15 years. And he just goes along with the company. He gets the standard raise or uptick every single year. He doesn't ever leave his company, and he just goes along for the next 10 years. Lindsay, on the other hand, she goes after different raises, different promotions. She transfers out of her company, and she has different upticks in her salary. And what you can see over, I think, is a 10-year period where they both start with identical salaries. That compounding effect of the money over time, over that 10-year period, Lindsay earns $1 million more than Bill. And so when you're like, how much money do you want to make? I mean, I don't think it probably would register to a lot of people that if you make strategic moves across your career over a 10-year period, you could earn $1 million more than the person who's sitting next to you. I think that's pretty great.
That is pretty great. You and I know that this rule exists, and it's not just scheduling, actually. It exists across almost every role. You and I have racked our brains for a long time about why more people don't do this. That's as far as my thinking's really got. Have you kind of probed in your book why people, if they know this information, don't act on it?
I don't think people know this information to start out with. I don't think they're aware of the different sorts of corporate games, because when you get into construction and construction scheduling, you kind of quickly end up in like a niche of a niche, and you end up in an area where this stuff isn't proliferated. And that's part of the reason why I wrote the book. So I think the first part of it is I don't think people are actually aware of a lot of these strategies that can help you earn more money. Then the second part is I think there is a lot of fear out there, and a lot of what I like to call like glass walls or glass ceilings, where people talk themselves out of, well, I can't ask for a raise this year. Maybe I'll wait till next year before I ask for a raise. I can't switch jobs right now. There's a lot of work going on, and I need my health insurance and this and that and the other. And yeah, I mean, some of these concerns are probably a little bit valid. More often than not, when I talk to people, it's just that fear of going out into the unknown and doing this. And if you ever talk with someone who has jumped jobs 3 or 4 times in their career, and done it in a way that is, makes sense, you find out that a lot of those fears are untrue, that a lot of those things you're telling yourself, they don't actually really ever hold you back. And what is holding you back is that job you're staying at, that you've already learned everything there is to learn at it. You've already maxed out on your ceiling of where you're going to earn at. And now you've come to a place where you're plateauing. And once you plateau, that's when I minimize your earnings.
Could you give me a real tangible example of one of those fears that sounds scary internally, but really isn't true when you go out there?
Yeah. So one of them would be the fear of restarting. So I have this great network at my company, and if I transition over to another scheduling role, I'm going to lose that network, and I might not be able to regain my status at that company. That's a fear I hear all the time. If I go take this job at this really cool new construction project, it might get shut down. I better not do it. If I go take this job over here, then it may not be in an industry that grows, or it's a new industry. So I don't know if I'll even be able to I might not be able to transfer from rail into data centers. So I better not even apply or try.
2 of those I agree with. One of them, if the project shuts down, that's going to be a problem for some people. Like, some people don't have the luxury of being able to sit on 2 years worth of earnings.
I know. But what I would say to that is usually any project could shut down. And so it's one of those ones where, for example, like Neom, if you were going there to add that to your resume to make it uplifted, and say like, hey, I worked on the world's biggest, greatest, craziest project, I think you would be able to go into that with some like, hey, yeah, this might get shut down, or this may not work out. But with how hot the job market is, honestly, you probably get a twofer. You'd probably go to Neom, you probably get 30% uptick in your salary, they'd shut down the project, then you turn around and come back and get your old job and get another 20% on top of that. It's
You and
more
I have
likely
seen
that a
both of
situation
those
like
things
that would
happen.
happen than, yeah, it's more likely that would happen. And it goes back to me, it just, again, now we're getting into we're placating and we're playing into those fears versus going and testing the market. What is the market like for this? What are the real jobs, real salaries? Like you got to put in the work and the sweat equity to go figure these things out.
I'm going to be a bit pokey now because I really want to kind of understand who it's talking to, because it would be too easy of me to say it's talking to the ambitious, no holds barred, career driven person. But what about the family person? What about the person that's actually balancing multiple facets of their life? Yes, they want to progress in their career, but there's only, their kids go to school around that area, and they bought a house, and there's certain limitations to life. What would you say to that person for two things? One is to kind of get them on the bus, and the second is to make it work within the constraints of life that are very valid.
Hey, listen, I got 3 kids, young children. I bought a house. I'm not moving. I'm in this boat. You're literally, Greg, you're speaking to me. You're speaking to Micah. This book isn't all about crazy, go leave your job type scenarios. I spent 7-8 years at Google, and there's lots of companies, and I guarantee the top 20 general contractors this way, and there's lots of companies where you have lots of ability to grow and learn and keep moving up in the corporate ladder, but you want to be able to strategically maximize your time there. If you are a parent, you don't have a lot of time. So why waste a bunch of your time on stuff that isn't going to be valuable for you? So in this book, I provide you 2 different detailed strategies: how to get a raise, how to get promoted. I provide step-by-step instructions, and I provide those for people who are in very structured environments. So when I worked at Google, that is a very structured promotion process. It's very easy to kind of, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then I also worked at a shipyard where there was no process. And if there is no process, you have to establish that. And so in this book, I lay out what are those steps. And going back to my previous example with Bill and Lindsay, you can still get raises and promotions and stay in your own company and maximize your earnings. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease in this game. You have to be able going out, asking people, setting up one-on-ones with your managers. And we can talk more about some of these strategies and tactics, but if you're not playing the game, you're not moving up and you're not getting more money. A company doesn't usually just magically put a bag of cash on your desk.
Very, very rarely. For everyone listening, the purpose of HR is to minimize the cost, reducing the risk of operations.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone.
I'm not there to be anyone's friend. Okay, I'm going to poke a little here, because obviously you're writing a book. You and I do our podcast once a week because we're just super passionate and it's really fun. You and I write a newsletter because it's really fun. It's almost like a hobby. When you first came to me and said, I'm going to write a book, honestly, my mind went a bit, that goes beyond a hobby into something else. Why are you putting all the effort into doing it? Genuinely, and people listening to this can probe me. I'm not here to publicize your stuff.
You're my friend. Psychosis.
I can rip you to pieces. You've got 3 kids and a full-time job. Why are you writing a book?
What if I had came back and been like, it's a poetry book about Northwest maple trees?
Genuinely text your wife and be like, I think he's got mental. I'd be looking out for him.
I just love Northwestern maple trees. To me, I've gotten to a place where you can hear probably my voice when I'm talking about it on this podcast. I'm just super, super passionate about it. I just want people to realize how much value they can unlock in construction planning and scheduling. It is one of those career fields that we all kind of got to band together and stick together in it, because it's very, like I said, niche. And I want people to know what's out there and what they're actually capable of. And I have a 10, 15-year career working through multiple companies, going across multiple countries. And I want to be able to share those lessons to people. It's like, this was a book to me of where this is what I wanted to read 10 years ago, that I had to go stumble through, fight through, figure it out, talk to all these different peoples, taken all these lessons. But this is one thing I wanted 10 years ago, where I could have read it and been like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how we do it. And I think it would have took a lot of the stress and pressure and different sorts of, situations where I bumped my toe, figured this out, do that off of me. And so that's really why I wrote the book, was just to share with people. I think these are excellent proven strategies that'll help you make more money. And I want you to go out there and make more money. And I want you to uplift planning and scheduling. And this is just something that, I remember listening to a podcast and it was like, only write a book if it's like you can't not write the book. And after so many of these conversations, I just was like, I can't not write this. I have to get this out there in a nice little package so people can flip through. And if you want to find a raise, you open up the book, you go to the raise page, and boom, there it is. When it's time to get that promotion, boom, there it is. When it's time to go out there and find a new job, here's the specific strategies of getting your package together. This is how you get your resume together, tune up your LinkedIn profile, write a cover letter. And it's stuff that, like, I've now mentored people who have used these strategies as well on across a wide variety, and it all works. It all puts them in a great place. And so to me, that's really what it was. It's just, how can I teach or give this out to people and just help people out?
I believe I'm also going to push it a bit further. I know you. And I know how, for everyone listening, Micah is the happiest of hackers that I've ever met. In that he will go, we need a new theme song. So I put out on Fiverr. I've got 17 composers competing against each other for 17. I know that you'll have really, really enjoyed the process of figuring out. By the way, just before this phone call, he was like, so actually, to style a Kindle book is easier than to style it. I know you'll have enjoyed figuring out all the hacks to do with it. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. This was, I mean, it's just, to me, I'm a person who, and it's a scheduler's brain. I just try and optimize the process. What is the process? How can we optimize it? And I do really enjoy writing about tips and tricks and strategies. It's just one of those passions of mine. It's like when you go to Disneyland for the first time and you're like, oh, how's lightning pass work? Get in this line and do this, rope drop that, To me, that's just how my brain works. And so I really do enjoy finding out what are kind of those. I think hacks at this point have a bad terminology. I think we've been buzz-fed hacks, tips, and tricks to death. I mean, this stuff takes work. It's not like I'm just going to tell you some magical GPT prompt that's going to land you the next job. Like, you got to put in work. I mean, one of the first sections I talk about is get prepared to be rejected. Like, get your mind in a place of like, this is a numbers game. And whether you're doing a raise, a promotion, or getting a new job, get ready to have your heart broken. And that, to me, is an actual hack, because if you're ready for that rejection, most people go find that first job, and the first job you see is this like magical flower on the hill, and you're like, this will be the greatest thing ever, and you put yourself doing that job and the money and the greatness and all of this stuff, and then you go apply to that first job, you don't even get a call back, and then it's like, what am I doing in my life? Oh no, everything is over. But if you're prepared to say, listen, this is a numbers game, I'm probably going to apply to about 50 jobs before I even get a call back, and you start to kind of get your brain in that lane, when you go out and do this, you're going to be in a much better place. And you're going to realize that, number one, I need to optimize this process because I'm going to be spending a ton of time doing it. So first off, you're going to find a new job, figure out how to optimize the process. It's a numbers game. So how can you apply to more of these jobs quicker? How can you find these jobs faster? Yeah, it is a hack. It is. There's lots of tricks there. But I think if you know the tricks, you can make it a much easier process.
It sounds a lot like, it actually sounds a lot like product development. It actually sounds a lot like venture capital and actually sales. You can imagine that there's a lot of similar information about it. For everyone listening, the core part of all of those is it's purely just a numbers and a conversion game. Like, you will speak to 100 people, and whatever it is, raising venture capital, developing product and finding people who like your product, finding sales, the natural state of things is rejection. And actually, I was in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, and actually I was in San Francisco over the weekend. But 2 weeks ago, someone said to me they knew all of the founders. Whoever you've seen on the news, they know them personally. Were talking to me where they knew where the kitchen sink was that Elon Musk walked into Twitter with. And he said, what's the deciding trait of the greatest founders? And he said, these people, they can just be punched for 20 years and they smile and they're happy about it and they keep building. And it's like, you can take infinite punches, and every punch teaches you something new. You don't sit there and complain, and nor do you sit there and not think. You think, why did I get punched? And the key thing is you take 20 years of punches, but not one punch is the same punch. Either the same punch came by, you can dodge it. And is that true here? Like, I'm reflecting my experience here, but I'm like, have I understood your point?
I think close. To me, with applying to jobs, so I would say I agree with that for raises and promotions, because you're going to get constructive feedback on that punch and then be able to go build off of it, improve your next skill, pick up some different experience. But applying to jobs, you're going to get a lot of invisible punches. You're going to apply to that job and not get a call back, and there's nothing you can do. The recruiter is not going to go in and read your resume and be like, oh, well, you just didn't have earned value management experience, or you know what? This other person applied who's like 10,000 times better, and for some reason could go make $100,000 more, but decided to take this job instead, because they want to live in North Carolina or something. There are going to be, when you're applying to jobs, a lot of punches to the face that could be invisible. It transitions a little bit when you start getting phone screens and interviews, and then you can start looking at what kind of stood out on your resume that they're talking about, their questions and your performances. But I would agree, get a calloused face and get ready to be punched in it many times, and then be okay with the invisible punches. It's just it's a numbers game. And the thing is, the job market remains extremely hot. Jobs continue to flood in the market. Microsoft went through a crazy hiring phase. I don't know, maybe in 6 months, Google's going to go on a hiring phase, right? But if you let yourself get dejected because you didn't get on the Microsoft data team and you don't have your stuff together, you aren't working actively to promote your brand and to create that, hey, recruiters are going to see your package and love it. When the next ship takes off, you're not going to be ready for it, right? Because you let those punches get to you and you're like, oh, I'll just stay at my company, I guess, So to me, it's, get ready to be punched in the face and get a good jab step. I don't box, but something like that.
Well, actually, what you said there just kind of resonated quite hard. It's it's remembering both you and I are guilty of this. We do not practice always what we preach here. It's just a job. It's just a job. Like, nobody was born going, oh my God, I can't wait to do scheduling. Nobody will die going, like, the one thing I could have done more
there
in
will
life
be a couple people and they'll reinvent. Yeah, no, there will be a couple people and they'll reinvent the world.
that kind of, it makes the punches a lot less personal. It's like someone coming to me and saying, like, Greg, how you rap presents is terrible. Cool, like, I'm happy to learn more, but like, I'm not going to lose sleep on how good my present wrapping is, unless, of course, I was like an elf for Santa Claus. Right, final question for me on this one, Micah. When's this thing going to be out? Are we going to see previews before you release the full thing?
Great question. Haven't quite thought through all of that yet, but I think I'm going to release a couple chapters early, get some feedback. It depends when this podcast is released, and so I think we'll do a launch. Why don't we do like a launch party podcast? I would say that'd be super fun to go back and, dive into some of these things. And, but we'll let the people know when it's going to be dropped. I haven't set a date yet. I'm just working through editing it now and getting it published and then kind of releasing out some sections. And I definitely want to have some sort of a launch party because a good amount of blood, sweat, and tears went into it. And so regardless of what it does, I think it's good to celebrate when you ship work.
I completely agree. Okay, well, what I'll say to everyone listening to this is, if you want to get an invite to the launch party, just drop us a LinkedIn message or drop us an email, Greg at... What's our email? It's... I actually forgot.
We'll set out. How about we set out? We'll set out. Well, maybe we'll do a. We'll see. Maybe we'll do a live event. That could be interesting. And
we can live event, but people might not want to be identified by themselves. So I think it's cool if like people there could submit questions and have them directly answered. But we obviously don't name the people.
Can we? I think we could do a live event through our pod. What if we did a live podcast?
We could do that.
That could be wild.
You still need people to want to come. So people need to reach out to us at Greg at whatever our email is.com.
I think it's Plan Rich. It's at Plan Rich. Greg app. We'll
Plan
put a
Rich.
link in the show.
We'll put a link below.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show.
It's,
and you can.
This is by the way, Micah and I making fun of ourselves.
Speaking of
I've
being
just
punched
found
in the face,
it's Greg at planrich.life.
Yeah,
great email.
Yeah. I know.
There we go.
I know. Plan Rich, folks. Yeah, but I think we'll set up an event. I think we should. That'd be fun.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, so you've heard it here first, everyone. We're going to have an event, and you'll be able to ask questions, and then the book will be released, and then you can all get promoted or move companies or whatever the strategy suggests.
A mass exodus of schedulers and people out of their jobs.
To where though? To where?
To
be honest, I've been talking with a lot of my European friends. A lot of them are doing an exodus to the US. The US pays big money.
Yes,
anyway.
It is great to be a planner scheduler in America. Shout out to the Beyond Deadlines newsletter, where we post 3 jobs every single week. Interesting. We have no connection to these jobs, but we go out and find 3 interesting jobs. And a lot of times they are in America. So if you're just looking to dabble and find new jobs in America, you subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get 3 jobs sent right there that you will be able to look at. And we vet these jobs beforehand. We make sure that they are construction scheduling jobs, that they're interesting, and that they're jobs that we would take depending on what station of life we were in. So Beyond Deadlines newsletter, there's a link below. Go check it out. Get your jobs. Go get paid.
I have to say, we need to vet them a bit more closely, because the last one we put out, which was amazing, it was the head of scheduling and controls at Microsoft, which was a cool $250,000 a year of base cash, not including shares and equity and all of this. My LinkedIn was flooded with people saying, would my CV be a fit for this? Just to clarify to everyone, I am not the hiring manager for these roles. We find roles that we think are really good, that we'd be like, cool, I'd be happy to do that. And we post them. I'm not the best person to have a view of whether or not Microsoft will employ you.
Yeah. Yeah, that Gas Fiverr. Affiliate link below.
Actually, do we get headhunting fees if we send? If someone from Microsoft is listening, we're happy to publish your jobs. What do headhunters charge about? Percentage of the earnings? I don't know. Who knows? Joking. We just find jobs that we find are interesting and post them. But with that, obviously this one has gone on quite far. I'm going to say thank you for everyone that's listening. Of course. We'll be back with this series, probing Micah's book and the launch party, and we'll let everyone know soon. Look in the show notes below for any information, probably our emails as well. And also, please recommend to some of your friends. Micah and I love being able to have impact on the industry and just help people. And the one thing you can do to help us is to share it with someone. Share it with someone that you think might get value from it. Other than that, I'd like to thank Micah for secretly putting in a lot of hours to write a book. Looking forward to getting the first pre-read of it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
See you later, everyone.